Hello fellas, today I'll be discussing about motion. Newton's first law states that every object will remain at rest or in uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change its state by the action of an external force. To explain more about motion, I will need to discuss about scalars and vectors. So what is the difference between scalars and vectors? A vector quantity has a direction and a magnitude. A scalar quantity has only a magnitude. You can tell if a quantity is a vector by whether or not it has a direction associated with it. Okay, so what I will do is I will provide some examples. What are scalar quantities and what are vectors quantities? So distance will be scalar. We also got speed, time, mass, pressure, and temperature. These are some of the examples that we have for scalar. For vector quantities, we have displacement, velocity, force, acceleration, weight. For this video, we will focus on the difference between distance and displacement. So you might be wondering, what is distance and displacement? So distance is the calculation of how much an object traveled from the initial position to its final position. Displacement is the distance it takes to travel from its initial position to its final position within the shortest time. I will provide an example of how you can differentiate the difference between distance and displacement. So remember, distance is scalar, displacement is vector. So this is me in this red sport car. What I will need to do is to travel to the shop. So assume that there is a river between me and the shop. So for me to get to the shop, I will need to travel 4 kilometers south, 5 kilometers east, 4 kilometers north. So the total distance traveled was 4 kilometers plus 5 kilometers plus 4 kilometers. So that equals to 13 kilometers. To calculate the displacement, remember, it is the distance it takes to travel from its initial position to its final position within the shortest time. So for this example here, my initial position is 0 and my final position is the shop. So it takes 5 kilometers for me to go to the shop, even though there is a river between me and the shop. So the displacement is 5 kilometers east. So here's another example to determine the difference between displacements and distance. So here's my scary house, which was some road and a shop. So from the house to the shop, it takes 5 kilometers to get there. So if I need to travel to the shop and back home, what will be my distance? Please take your time to think about this. Pause the video if you need to. So the distance is, it takes me 5 kilometers to get there and 5 kilometers to get back. So the total will be 10 kilometers. Okay, so here's an example for displacement. Similar question. So what is the displacement if I need to travel to the shop and back? Remember displacements? It is the distance traveled from its initial position to its final position within the shortest time frame. So for this example here, my initial position is the house and my final position is also at the house. So the displacement is equal to 0. I hope this is making sense. I will bump this up another level just to see whether you understand this or not. So here's my creepy house. I will add in a park this time and also Bobby's house. So for me to get to the park, it takes 10 kilometers. From the park to Bobby's house, it takes 4 kilometers. And from Bobby's house to my house, it takes 6 kilometers. I will be providing you some questions, so please pause the video if you need extra time. The first question is calculate the distance from home to the park and back home. The second question is calculate the distance from home to the park and then to Bobby's house. To get to the beautiful park, it takes 10 kilometers, and for me to get back home, it takes another 10 kilometers. So the total distance is 20 kilometers. For the second question, it takes 10 kilometers for me to get to the beautiful park, and it takes an additional 4 kilometers to get to Bobby's house. So the total kilometers traveled is 14 kilometers. Alright, so let's move on to displacements. The question is, from home to the park and back home, what is the calculation for displacement? So the answer is 0. There's no change in position, so I was initially at home and my final position is also at home. Another question is, what's the displacement from home to the park and then to Bobby's house? So the initial position is the house, the final position is Bobby's house. So the displacement is, I will need to travel 6 kilometers east to get to Bobby's house. So bonus question. I will need you to calculate the distance and also the displacement. So this is me. I will need to travel 3 kilometers east, 2 kilometers south, 3 kilometers west, 2 kilometers north. So please calculate the displacement and also distance. So to calculate the distance, you will just need to add up all the distance I've traveled, which is 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2, and the total is equal to 10 kilometers. The displacement is 0 because my initial position and my final position is the same. Thank you for watching my video. Hopefully this have helped you understand the difference between distance and displacements. Please comment below or email me if you have any questions or any example for me to go through in the future.